We are here. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing pretty good. What's your name and where you from?
My name's Millie, and I'm from Illinois, really the Quad Cities. And then outside of that, I'm from a small town called Sherrard.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. What was life like growing up?
Growing up, ultimately, I lived a pretty cool life. I grew up with all boy cousins. I grew up really in the middle of nowhere, so there was a lot of productive things to do, fishing, hunting, all that,
Okay, and I'm pretty sure the male cousins protected you well, didn't they?
for sure. Yep.
Okay. Did you have both parents?
Yeah, I did. So I was adopted into a very loving family. My birth parents, I did not know them. I still don't know them, but my adopted parents, yeah, they actually divorced probably like 4 years ago.
Okay,
They were together for 32 years. Amen.
that's a long time.
Yep.
Have you tried finding your biological parents?
Um, so about like 3 years ago, I did uh start to wonder more as I got older and such. I've always known I was adopted, but as I got older, I needed more closure. And I did find my three sisters. I have three older sisters, and I'm the youngest out of all of us. And when they had came to my birth mother and told her that they found me, she said she wanted nothing to do with me.
Did you ever get answers why she didn't want anything to do with you?
Um, In a sense, yes, but like I feel like until like I hear it from her, like I won't really have like a sense of closure in that type of way. But
Yeah.
I know enough.
So what was said, if you want to share?
Ultimately, from what I have heard, is that uh, the birth father was a threat to me and the family. So basically, she just took her family and me out of harm's way, put gave me to people who he would have no way of connecting to me, and so that way they had no connection to them as well.
Right. So how did that make you feel?
At first I was young, so like I really, because I've known that I was adopted since I can remember, but at first I was kind of too young to even understand. But as I got older, probably about 12, 13, I started to like wonder, like, why was I not good enough? Um, and also my brother was adopted from another family, and like when his parents found him, I got pretty jealous because I just was like, why is nobody looking for me? And so it was tough, but at the same time, like I ultimately grew up in a loving household, so it was tough for me mentally, but at the same time, it was cool.
Okay. How did you deal with it mentally?
At first, non healthy ways. I did a lot of self harm. Um, and honestly, I don't know any other way to deal with it. Like self harm to me was like a type of release. Um, Definitely, like some people, their choice of the choice is a drug because that's their fix. But mine was, I hurt myself and I feel better just because that's what I felt like I deserved. But
So
it
what did you do to hurt yourself? And when was the first time you hurt yourself?
I would self harm usually on my legs, but the first time I'm not exactly sure. But I did start to overdose. Like I've never did drugs like just because I needed a fix or anything like that. But I definitely would try to take my life. I tried to take my life like 11 times. Well, no, I did try to take my life 11 times. The first time was I was like about 13 years old, and I didn't tell nobody about it. Um, yeah, I just kind of suffered a little bit, but um, yeah,
Okay. When you were 13, that's what you did. You cut yourself on your legs and tried to kill yourself.
yes. Well, that's when it started.
Okay.
That wasn't the end, though.
Okay. That first time, how did your parents feel about that?
They didn't really know anything until, like, I remember specifically one day me and my mom was in the car and she was like, have you ever wanted to die? And I was like, yeah. And she said, have you ever tried? And I said, yeah. And then ultimately, that's when everything went downhill.
Do you know why she had, asked you that? What made her ask you
Actually,
that?
yes, because I started to go to therapy and then I had told my therapist, and like when you tell a therapist some shit like that, they have to, like, you know, tell the information to others to keep you safe.
Yeah. You said everything went downhill from that. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like what started to go downhill?
I
You know?
feel like because other people knew of my struggle, like mainly my mom, I felt like I was able to express it more freely instead of hiding it, because like I was like, okay, cool, the cat's out the bag. Now somebody know. Like now I can just. But I would say like at first, I don't feel like it was ever necessarily for any type of attention. I was the type of person who would do everything behind closed doors. There's two different types of people who do that shit out and open in the public for everybody to see, and there's people who do it behind closed doors when nobody knows about it. The only time anybody would ever know about anything is when I try to kill myself and I'm like literally dying and I need help. Like then that's when I call my aunt. And I never really first go to my mom and dad. I was kind of scared to go to them. But like my aunt, my mom's sister, was ultimately like the person I always went to when it came to those type of things. And she would come save me every time. Or like, no, yeah, she'd come save me every time, literally. Shout out to her.
Is there a particular reason you didn't want to go to your parents instead?
Growing up, I felt like I lacked a connection with my parents, especially knowing that they weren't my real parents. Since I can remember, and ultimately, like, yeah, I grew up in a good household and stuff like that. Like, my parents were good to me. They were never like anything other than good, but still, like, it just was weird. And like my aunt, my one specific aunt, she was she was somebody who I could relate to, and she was somebody who, like, I was always constantly around. She did a lot of things that I looked up to, and so I felt like I just felt most comfortable telling her about my life, because I feel like going straight to your parent, it's like that's a parent, so like they always gonna have something to say. They always gonna look at it from a different perspective as like an aunt or uncle or someone like that.
Yeah. Now, the 11 times that you tried, were they all for the same reasons?
Um, I would definitely say yes. Well, no, not no. Um, Sometimes it just be because I genuinely just hate myself, and I just didn't want to feel like that no more. And the only way I felt like I want to be able to feel like that is if I wasn't here no more. Other time it'd be because there's about 2 times because I was sexually assaulted, or like sometimes I just make impulsive decisions and I would be like, okay, well, I made this decision and that's my problem. That's my fault. So like, like, I don't know. I felt like very weak minded at that point in my life, because I felt very weak and I didn't have any type of hope, faith, love for myself, my life, none of that. So I just always resulted to the easiest way out.
Yeah. Was it like a family member that sexually assaulted you?
No, never a family member. It was always like, I would say when I was younger, I didn't like lose my virginity and stuff till like I was 17. But when I lost my virginity, I I just felt like validation. And when I say validation, it was like it was always men who I felt like I needed validation from. And it honestly, like, because I hated myself and I sought out validation in men, they always took advantage of that. So it would mainly just be guys who would take advantage of me, and then I hated myself, so I just thought I deserved it and didn't really care that things would happen.
Okay. Now, did it escalate you trying to self harm from cutting yourself?
Yeah, there was two instances specifically that I can remember that I tried to take my life like immediately after. I remember the first time I was in the hospital, the little psych ward, and nobody, like, people would always ask me, like, every time that I went to I like would try to take my life, and then I would go to the hospital. They would always try and like get the reason out of you, and ultimately, sometimes I never really had a reason other than I just don't want to fucking be here. But sometimes I did have a reason and a motive for the why I did what I did. But like, yeah, there was two times. The first time um, was my we're not gonna get into that part. But the first time, yeah, did that shit happen, try to kill myself, and then I went to the hospital, and then I finally ended up, like, after a couple of days, telling my mom what happened. And then the second time, uh, same thing, went to the hospital, and they just like, if you ever been to the hospital in the psych ward, they be trying to beat that shit out of you. They want to know why the fuck you did what you did. Right. And yeah, sometimes there's just no answer.
Yeah.
But sometimes there is.
Right. And you said you overdosed on pills before. Was that a way that you tried to harm yourself?
So like self-harm without overdose, like I just use knives or things like that, just things that were sharp. Like my parents literally locked everything possible in a lockbox. There was a lockbox in every room. Everything was locked away, and then the pills started getting locked away. I would mainly take like Tylenol, ibuprofen, like 200 pills at a time, or like sometime when those were gone, I would fucking like just go through my parents' pills and just take all of them, all of their pill bottles. And it wasn't because like I was like trying to get a fix, but I was trying to die.
Right. Now, when you woke up in the hospital and you realized, that didn't work, what were you feeling?
In a sense, I definitely felt failure, especially like my first couple of attempts, because it's like, I don't know, sometimes it ultimately made me more upset because it's like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm feeling that life and I can't even fucking take my life. Like I'm feeling at that too. Like what the fuck else? Like what else do I possibly need to do? But at the same time, I'll be thinking back about it and I'm like, you know what? Like if I really wanted to die, I would have did it in a way that I would have just simply died. So now that I'm able to look back at things like that, it's like I really didn't want to die. I just wanted the feelings that were inside that I was feeling to die.
Okay. So what was it like in the psych ward?
That's just terrible. Like, ultimately, it did make me realize. Okay, so the first bits, I was like in places around my hometown area. They weren't as bad, but they were definitely bad, and it definitely made me realize like I feel like I was never crazy to anybody else but myself. So like not many people would see that I was crazy unless it was like. So I grew up in a small town. So like I try to kill myself and I'm not at school for weeks. People know what the fuck going on, especially after the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time. Like it's just everybody know. Like I want to die. Everybody know about my whole occurrence of all that, and it was just I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Well, not weird, uncomfortable knowing that like everybody knew about that type of stuff. But yeah, the psych ward definitely a crazy place. I remember I was in the psych ward in Milwaukee one time because so I've been to rehab 2 times. One in Chicago for like a month. That shit was terrible. And
Why was it terrible?
like it just, I remember my mom specifically told me she wanted me to go to this place because Kesha and Demi Lovato went there, which is cool, whatever. But like, it was like the worst. It was inhumane. Like, it was just crazy. I remember I was so fucking sick and they didn't give a fuck. But then one day I was on the phone with my mom and like, it was just, she could hear everything going on. She was like, "Oh yeah, no, you gotta get out of here." And then when I got out, I went to the hospital, and they're like, I was super sick. But yeah, the second rehab I went to was like 2017, and it was in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. It's called Rogers Behavioral Health. Shout out to them. They saved my life. But I really cried to leave that place. But I was there for 4 months, and yeah, that shit really saved my life. But before I went into there, I overdosed on Adderall in the hotel room before the day before I was about to get admitted into there. And so like in Wisconsin, if they feel like your parents are a threat to you, the police will like take custody of you. So they had looked at my track record and been like, okay, this girl done try to kill herself like 10 times. So like, what's going on at home? And so they took custody of me. And so ultimately they had all say over my everything because I was a child at the time. And so then they put me in the ICU because I was like, not cool. And yeah, I was in there for a couple of days. I lost my spot in rehab. So then I got sent to a psych ward in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that shit was absolutely insane. And that's the day I realized I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy at all. Like nothing compared to that psych ward.
What were some things you were seeing in there that made you realize that you're not crazy?
So like I realized, especially there, like when you are a child and you do some crazy fucked up shit that you can't get charged with as an adult, you go into the psych ward. Like you try to kill your brother, you try to like do some weird ass crazy shit, poison somebody, or like you got voices in your head and like they're telling you to kill everybody and you going out here trying to, yeah, no, that's where you're going. Like, and I was like never homicidal. I was always suicidal. I wanted to harm myself, nobody else. And a lot of people there was like genuinely fucked up. And I feel bad for them for sure. But like, it's just not where I belonged. Like, it literally felt like I was having to be put in jail because I didn't want to be alive. Like, literally, when I left the ICU, the police came in and they handcuffed me and had me walk through the Milwaukee hospital without any shoes, handcuffed, in my hospital gown, put me in the cop car, and then took me to the psych ward. And yeah, I was in there for about a month before I could go to the rehab facility.
Wow. Was it a time that you had to go to a psych ward because you woke up your parents and you had blood covered all over you?
Yeah, like, so some nights, no, I never went to the psych ward for that because like it just became so normalized. Like, sometimes I was just self-harm and like at first I'd go for self-harm, but then like it got so normal that my parents, like I would literally wake my mother up in the middle of the night with blood all over me and she'd just so calmly be like, go to the bathroom, I'll clean it up. Like, that's crazy. Now that I be thinking of like back about that, I'm like, poor mom. Like, the trauma that I was facing then when I was a child, I'm cool now. I've healed. I'm able to talk about that shit without feeling any type of way. But like my mom now, she is traumatized from the trauma that I was going through.
Right. So at one point, did all the self-harming stop?
I say the self-harm stopped when I started getting tattoos. I started getting tattoos whenever I felt like self-harming. And that's why I started getting a lot of stupid tattoos, just because I just needed a fix ultimately. I have a couple tattoos that have gotten covered up from when, you know, I made my impulsive decisions to get tattoos and stuff for free in the bottom of people's basements and stuff like that. But I say that was around like, this is my first tattoo I ever got. I was 16 years old. It says I can do all things with a semicolon. And my mom got that for me for like my 16th birthday. And I say that's around the time, or it was probably like 17. No, it was 16 when the self-harm stopped. But I still was suicidal and stuff like that.
Okay.
Self-harm, ultimately, like if we're scientifically speaking, just like a drug, like it's a fix. So like, just like tattoos with the pain and stuff like that, ultimately pain feels good to me. So it's like it relieves your endorphins and stuff. So like all that built up tension that you have inside, you self-harm in any way. Some people burn themselves, some people cut themselves, some people like I actually, one thing I learned was I would wear a rubber band around my wrist, and anytime I felt like self-harming, I would just snap the rubber band. And so like it's just like that jolt of pain that goes through your body, and it makes you feel better in a sense. And also because I feel like I deserved that. And it was a way of feeling like I deserved to be put through pain, but also not trying to kill myself. So I would say like sometimes the self-harm was for the better, because I didn't, you know, like overdose. I could have probably overdosed way more times if I wasn't self-harming.
Okay. Now, you were telling me a situation happened outside of a laundromat, say a year ago.
It was about 2 winters ago, so like, to be specific, it was like December 21st of 2023. But yeah, that was okay. So that was the day that my life honestly changed, and it sounds crazy, but like I had met this guy like 5 months prior. I never like really kicked it with him again until that night, because he just gave me a lot of like off vibes. And that night, long story short, I was assaulted outside of the laundromat. I had developed a small brain bleed. And during that time, I genuinely felt like this man was trying to like low-key take my life with his hands. So I had prayed for the first time in like 4 years. And literally my prayers were answered like right away. It was the craziest feeling ever. This couple came out of nowhere and like saved me, quite literally.
Was he like punching you, or like what was he doing to assault you?
Yeah, punching me. He literally bit through my finger, like, got infected. Ain't that crazy? Like, his mouth infected my finger.
Yeah.
It's not funny, but you know, anyways.
Any reason why he did that?
Honestly, I genuinely feel like it was a setup. So another side note is like, so when my parents had divorced, ultimately I grew up very spoiled child. Like I was given everything. I didn't have to work for shit, which is great, like in a sense. But when my parents divorced, they were kind of like, you know, fly free little bird. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck I'm supposed to do? So I resulted to OnlyFans, and I did OnlyFans for like a year and a half. And at first it wasn't like local. Nobody local knew until I started to get bigger a little bit on there. And people started finding my pages and stuff. I felt like very uncomfortable, unsafe, because I didn't know who knew I did that shit and who didn't know I did that shit. And I genuinely think that like he knew I did that, and I felt like it was a setup and he was trying to hit me. But that's not how I roll. That's not what I was doing. Let's be clear.
Right. Now you say you do music.
Yes.
How long have you been doing music?
Oh wait, let's so like ultimately the night that I got beat up, it was a curse, but it was one of the biggest blessings ever because it was the first night I prayed. And ever since that day, I've been praying since. And like 3 days after that occurrence, I deleted my OnlyFans. Um, I just deleted the lifestyle that I felt like was corrupting myself.
Right.
Um, and ever since I like made the decisions to like choose God over my impulses and the life that I wanted to live out of just fun, I've been way blessed. But yeah, definitely I will say like OnlyFans, I made solo content. So it was just myself, and it was a great experience, and it's not everyone's like way of navigating through life, but that's how it worked for me. I learned to love myself. I learned to run my own businesses. I learned to literally do a lot of things through that, and yeah, I'm thankful that I don't have to do that no more, to make a way for myself. But I'm glad that I learned the things I needed to learn, and not everyone is going to agree with that, but not everyone have to.
Right. And you said you do music. When did you start doing music? And then was that a way for you to?
So I started doing music probably, it's been about a year and some change now. Ultimately, like, so it was like a little bit before, I don't know when it was, but I went on this date with this guy and he took me to this karaoke bar, and I've done like church choir and stuff like that, but he took me to this karaoke bar, and I was like, fuck it, let me go sing some shit. And I sang a song, and like it wasn't great, but like I was like, okay, I can sing. And so I stayed consistent for 7 months straight. I did karaoke almost damn near every night. Like I barely missed a night. And I recorded videos and stuff, and like I started to see the genuine progress I was making in my voice, and not only my voice, but my confidence and just who I was. And it was so inspiring to me just to be able to see, like, if you just put your mind to something and like follow through with it, like you're just gonna, it's inevitable to like grow. Like, of course, some people just don't have the ambition and stuff to do things like that, but definitely it was a big step in my life. And when I made my first song called Shadows, which is on all platforms by Millie, $1 million Millie, uh, it ultimately was just to like represent what I stand for, who I am, and because like I want to like start a food truck, and I like to encourage positivity and motivation and stuff like that on my social medias, which is also $1 Millie on all platforms. But yeah, so it was just really to represent my brand, what I stand for, and my friend Lolo, he's the one who put me in the studio, and he would come with me to like karaoke and stuff. And I remember he was like, you're good, you can sing. And he's like, go home and make a song. And he had a studio in his warehouse, and he was like, go home, make a song. And the next day I went there, I made this song, and he was like, you got to get up out of here. So I came to Nashville, and it's been cool.
Okay. Anybody that'll see this that's going through them self-harming themselves or thinking about suicide, any words or advice or things you want to say to them?
So ultimately, life is what you make it, quite literally. And like, I know how it feels to be at the lowest low of your life. And when people are trying to speak life and positivity in you, it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, and when I was going through those, like, people say like suicide is selfish, whatever, whatever, whatever. I used to think they were selfish for saying suicide is selfish, because like, what the fuck do you mean? You want me to be here and live through this shit? Like, you're not the one going through it. I'm going through it. So like, you're selfish for just wanting me to go through this for you. But now, as I've grown and my mentality has changed, it is selfish in a sense. But now, like back then, I didn't want to hear shit anybody had to say because I was so low. So I understand how it can be so fucking annoying for someone to like sit there and be like, oh, it gets better. Like, that's the stupidest shit you could fucking tell me when I'm going through that shit. But it's true. And you're not able to really see that until you kind of switch up your mindset. And honestly, changing your mindset is like one of the easiest, hardest things to do. Like it can happen just like that, but it take a while for it to happen just like that. It's not something that's just no. It quite literally is something that's gonna happen just overnight. But like you gotta like work for it. And ultimately, I remember like it was like a year ago, I woke up and I literally felt like a whole new person. And I don't mean to make it about like, you know, spiritual religion or whatever, but like that's what worked for me. And it doesn't have to work for you. Ultimately, it's just a mentality thing. But at the same time, like when I started having faith in a higher power and myself, that's when I started to feel better. And then when I started to have the motivation and courage and all of that to want to do better, be better, all that, I want to live life to its fullest potential. So like I'm gonna keep striving to do what I gotta do to be my best me. But yeah, like it definitely takes some work to get there. It's not easy at all. But like a year ago when I woke up, I literally felt like a whole new person. Like I was rebranded. And for the past year, I have not been capable of literally even, let alone feeling suicidal, but thinking negatively. And like, I literally cry some days because I'll be like, thank you, Lord Jesus. Like, thank you. Because the freedom I feel from my head is literally one of the biggest blessings I've ever like encountered. And it's a great feeling. Like, if you looked at me like, if you met me like 2 years ago, shit, even a year and a half ago, you would not like be able to even, I mean, you'd recognize me physically in a sense, but like mentally, yeah. And honestly, it do be hard, like since I've been here in Nashville for 7 months, and it's been a lot of solitude. So that's the the most I've grown, honestly, like in the past 7 months, and not having anyone here to be able to like see my progress, except for like through the phone or through text, it'd be kind of frustrating because I feel like not that I need credit, but you know, it just be frustrating because I feel like a lot of people, especially at home or from my past, are stuck on my past more than I'm stuck
Right.
on my past. So it like it's frustrating because, but I understand, like I completely understand, but at the same time, it's like, bro, give me that grace, like
Yeah. Just
give me
acknowledge that you grown and
exactly, yeah. But ultimately, I'm happy, and I've gotten to the point where it's like I honestly could give a fuck less about what anyone think, feel, say about me. Because ultimately, I'm cool. I'm straight. I love myself. I love my life. Literally represent. But like, and I got God. Like that's all I need. That's quite literally all I need. And like, I have never like I don't search for validation in other people anymore. Like even though it can perceive to be that way sometimes, like quite literally, I don't give a fuck what you think, what you feel, none of that shit. I and like that can sound kind of negative in a sense, but like no, like I mean I give a fuck when I need to give a fuck, but like I live for myself. I don't live for nobody else. Like all I've ever literally asked for is to love my life and you know like just genuinely be happy, and I got both those things.
yeah. Any last things you want to say before we get out of here?
My song Shadows by 1M Millie featuring HHB Will is on all platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, all that. You can follow me on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, just Millie Barton, Millie, and Instagram, 1M Millie. Yeah, and you know, life is what you make it. If you think it, then you are. What Hannah Montana say? Lies as you make it alive. And yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. You too.